See if it works.
You're live. Bing.
Man, so I don't know what's going on, but I don't know. I gotta figure that shit out because I was looking into the whole how to like share it on Facebook and everything too, but it was kind of weird. So anyhow, let's see if anybody's give it a couple minutes, just see if people jump off. See one guy's on. So hopefully that's a loyal subscriber because technical difficulties is not working.
We are like 20 minutes behind.
A little behind schedule too. Yeah, see, it actually pops up like that. Change it live now. Click on it.
5 people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, write something in the comments if you guys can hear us. This is like kind of a new computer too, so I don't know if everything is working or not. I can see the little mic thing, but it's not. It sound like it's working sometimes.
What's happening?
What up, David? Let me see if it'll work here. It's working here. It's a little laggy, but yeah. So now we got 7 people.
Is the audio good? Because we're just doing it streaming straight off my laptop. Quality is not all there.
Because I already have my big camera set up and my big mic going too. I tested it. It sounded pretty good, but then I was like, okay, ready to go. And then today I went home. I was like, no internet, man. Sad. So give it a couple minutes, and you guys can. What up, Jason? So if you guys have any questions, like just basic fishing questions that's not striper related, you can go ahead and ask them now because once we get to like maybe 10 people, actually we've been online for like 2 minutes. So once we get to maybe 5 minutes and everybody come in, we're gonna start our topic. And once the topic kind of starts, then I don't want to move too far away from the topic, and we're gonna try to stay on topic as best we can. That way our title actually means something. So today's focus is going to be like stripers, hybrids, and white bass on the lake. So very general still. We're not focusing it on like springtime, wintertime, or anything like that. So we're just going to basically just kind of go over some of the tackle you need and maybe some baits and some good areas that should produce all year, you know? That's okay. You got 8 people. What's that?
Just more light.
Oh man, I was thinking of bringing my circle light thing too, but I was running out of time.
No have shiny foreheads.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little better.
Kind of helps. Fort Gibbs is hot right now? Damn, we need to go Fort Gibbs, huh?
That's too far.
Fort Gibbs was looking far.
Well, I mean, it's not that far, but I haven't been there in like 8 years.
3, 4. I've only been there like 3 times. You know,
no, actually, I went. Last time I went was on the Jumbo. Or is it on my kayak? I think it was on a kayak.
I never took my kayak over there.
I think I took my kayak once.
Oh yeah. You probably went by yourself because I don't remember that.
No, and you guys are on the Jumbo.
Really?
I think so. Could be wrong. It's been a long time.
Yeah. Was that the one with Nalu with us?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, long time.
That was way before the bass fishing and everything.
Yeah, I know. It's like...
That was when you had a kayak, but nobody knew you had a kayak.
Yeah.
Sad.
And I was trying to catch a bass that day.
Yeah.
I think I lost one.
And I caught one on a square bill. Still remember that. Woody, what's up, Woody? What up, cuz? He's a Shunk too, see? He's a Woody Shunk. Yes, we are Shunk people from Oklahoma. So people always ask, like, where are you guys from? So we're from Oklahoma. All right, 4 minutes, 30 seconds. We get it to 5 minutes, and then we're gonna start talking stripers. Oh, do you guys want us to do every Tuesdays and Thursdays? I mean, it's wintertime. We're not fishing much. I do have a lot of time on my hands. So we could do Tuesdays and Thursdays. We could probably do maybe like kayak and boat stuff Tuesdays and just striper stuff and other things on Thursdays. Because you look at the schedule, Damn, the bass schedule was pretty good too.
Hmm?
The bass fishing schedule
For what?
for like all the trails. There's a couple I want to go. I feel like, dude, the OKC guys. They go in the Prague and during the springtime. I kind of know that one.
Of course.
I kind of know
It's
that.
an easy one.
That's like the fun one. And then, but I think that's like a Tuesday night, right? Or is that a weekend?
This is a Tuesday night.
Is it Tuesday? Yeah, Tuesday's fun. All right, 5:30. Okay, so topic for the night is stripers. Stripers on the lakeside. So if you guys missed last week's, we talked about stripers below the dam. Okay, so if you guys are here for stripers below the dams, go look at that video from last week. It was also a live video, and we put a lot of good information in that video. Everything from dam generation schedules to baits you need to do, plus how to catch them when the water's on and how to catch them when the water's off. Okay. So this week we're kind of gonna focus a little bit more on the lakeside, and a lot of people don't have dams, so they watch our channel. They wanna know how to catch them on the lakeside, whether that's on a boat or whether that's on the bank. It really doesn't matter because there's a point in time where it's actually better to be on the bank, or you have to be on a boat. So for us, we haven't done a lot of striper fishing from the boat or from the bank or from the boat on the lakeside because a lot of our lakes here, you can say like 95% of the lakes are privately owned. They're private property, so you can't even get on most of it. So we actually have to get on these lakes with a boat. And if it's public property, then more than likely there's like a dam or something like that, or there has to be like a bridge, or there's like a state park or something like that that will allow you to jump on it. I know in California, a couple other states, the lake is all public property. You can walk around the entire lake. It's not true. That is definitely not true in Oklahoma. But like I said, 90% of the lake shores are private property, so you really can't get too much up in there. But there's some good spots if you look hard enough. And for us in the springtime, we always focus on the dams just because it's the easiest way to catch fish. All the fish come to the dam, and there's it's like a feeding frenzy, right? It's like fishing for fish in a tank, but it's very crowded. It gets very crowded. I mean, it gets to the point where continue.
What? It gets to a point where like it just gets crowded and everybody's like shoulder to shoulder. And then you have altercations. You might be people fighting for spots, or then you gotta be smart, and get there early and stuff, and just sit it out, and waste a lot of time. But if you're on the lake, it's just you and maybe your buddy and your friends.
And not a lot of people chase white bass and stripers in our state.
Yeah, and not on the lakeside.
Mm-hmm.
They just mainly do it on the dam side. So when you go to the lake, you have it all to yourself. I mean, like fishing on the lake is, just look for your typical sandy beaches kind of area, points and stuff like that. And, you probably got to try a lot of spots out. You got to do a lot of scouting trip, but eventually you'll find a spot and it'll be like, diamonds in a haystack.
Yeah, in the rough. Yeah, so the thing about the stripers in the lakeside is, depending on how big your lake is, it could be really, really hard to find them. Or at least find a spot that will attract them all year, okay? Because the stripers are open water fish. Stripers, hybrids, and white bass are open water fish. And they move around a lot, okay? So they're not like a bass that might only move around like a mile or so. They actually could move a mile a day. So depending on what they're doing, because they're always chasing bait. So wherever the bait is at, that's where they'll be at. So if you go out and you notice so this is going to be for the guys that have electronics on their boat and the guys that are on the bank. Okay. If you're on the bank, obviously you don't have electronics to kind of tell you whether the fish are deep or shallow. So for you guys that are on the bank, look for like wind blown points. Well, basically anything that's wind blown, right? You want to be just right there during the prime time hours. Prime time hours is what we call that golden hour for the photographers, or what would you say, like 5 to 7 in the morning?
30 minutes before the
Yeah,
sunrise.
like 30 minutes before you can see light. That 30 minutes, and then you get light, and then there's like an hour after that, and that's pretty much it for the guys on the bank, right? Uh, and then it works in the morning and it works at night. So the guys on the bank, look for that. Your timing in terms of when to be there is very critical. The guys on the boats, not as much, okay. And the guys on the bank, you got to look for us. It's always like points. It's always points. It's always like a they call it a transition, where it's basically like sand to rock or small rock to bigger rock. Boulders usually don't do too good for us. They're more like they like flat stuff when it comes to white bass and stripers. So that's always good. Find find access to a point, a sandy point. It doesn't matter if it's on the main lake or on a creek channel somewhere, or a creek in that matter. So I'll tell you what, where they're not going to be in is more than likely they're not going to be in the trees. More than likely they're not going to be in the standing timber if you have standing timber. And more than likely, if you have grass on your lake, they're not going to be in the grass either. So just kind of avoid that. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's like an exception to the rule, but 90% of times that's what happens. Um, and on the lakeside, the stripers, for like most part, like I said, they're open water. So you want to stay on the main lake for I would say what 80% of the year, unless they're spawning.
Mm-hmm.
They're spawning, they might be up the river, but after that, like the main lake points are always a good spot to catch them. If you're just on the bank, top waters are always good, but swim bait is probably the deadliest thing you could probably throw. Weightless fluke is also very good. So I would even say those are the three things. If you're just on the bank, those are probably the best one. And when it comes to stripers and white basses and hybrids, keep your eyes open. They chase bait, like I said. So if you're just starting out, you need to look for signs of bait. Uh, Wind blown areas are really good because it kind of pushes the bait in. But then if you have herring, if you have water birds and things like that around the area, it's even better because that's what we do too when we're on the boat. We have nice electronics. Our electronics are probably like what $6,000 now,
Yeah.
about that on our boat. But at the same time, when we're driving around, we still keep our eyes open. Just looking
diving
for
birds.
Diving birds. If you get diving birds, it's game on. It's done. Just stay there until the birds come to you. It's game on, right?
Or blowups. You just look for diving birds, or you're looking for like white water splashing. You're like,
right,
they're over there.
Mm-hmm. So for the guys on the bank, those are like a handful of things that you can really like put in your pocket and live with because that's what we did for the longest time. That's what we did. We love throwing top waters or big points. Find the biggest point you got. It doesn't matter if it's deep or if it's really shallow. It doesn't really matter. Like go out there and throw a big pencil popper early in the morning before you can. When you can like fling it out there, you could barely see it like land. We could barely see the splash. That's like the perfect time to catch a big striper, a big hybrid, big white bass, things like that. So those are the guys on the bank, right? And the guys on the boat, it can get very complicated or it can be very, very simple. Meaning, it depends on your style of fishing. Do you like to do you like to troll, or two, do you like to cast to the fish? He hates trolling. I kind of, I'm in the middle. He hates trolling. But I tell you what, trolling is a very good technique if you're all about catching limits.
Mm-hmm.
If you're all about catching limits, it is hard to beat the trolling technique, especially if you don't have $6,000 of electronics. If you only have like a $200 depth finder and that's all you got, and you got mapping, say on your phone, because we did that in an old video. We didn't. One of our old crew members from the other channel, we went out one day and we had a $200 Lowrance. No, it wasn't 200. It was $100 Lowrance, and we had to use my phone for mapping, and we still caught a limit of hybrids and stripers. We caught them because we knew what we were doing. So you don't need super sophisticated electronics. You just need something. and we were just trolling. Like there was no way that day we were gonna catch a limit casting to them. We didn't have good electronics. The fish was moving around a lot, and when they move around a lot, it's hard for you to know where they're at. So it's better for you to do kind of like circles, and let them come to you in a sense, or maybe you could like somehow get lucky and you guys meet somewhere together and you guys get bit. So when you're trolling, I mean, you got to kind of figure out what they want that day too. Sometimes they want you to go a half mile per hour. Some days they want you to go two. Sometimes they're shallow, like in 15 foot of water. Sometimes they're in 35 foot. So that's also a really cool thing for the guys that are starting out. You control everything too. You control a crankbait. You control a jerkbait. You control a fluke. You control
Deep divers.
deep crankbaits. But the deadliest one is the umbrella rig. It costs a lot more, and if you lose it, you about cry because it's like $50. But that thing works when nothing else would. Put it that way. So it's very, very good. Umbrella rig. Captain Max. The only two that I can recommend is one is the Captain Max with all the bucktails on it, or you could do like just the Captain Max frame and put a bunch of swim baits on it. And we have another guy. I've actually used his product before. I've just never actually fished with it. I've got it in my hands looking at it. You give him like a little notice here. His name is Meng Shong from California. He's the I guess the inventor or the builder of the Atlas rig. That thing is pretty cool. It's because most umbrella rigs, when you pull them out of the package, you can't collapse them. Once you expand them, the arms out. You shouldn't bring them back because they're just end up breaking the arms. His unit, there's like a screw you can loosen and tighten that allows you to open up the arms or put the arms back. So it's actually really cool for storage purposes. So I haven't used it yet, but this year we're definitely trolling.
I made a trolling rig. I just haven't put baits on it.
Yeah,
It's gonna
he,
cost
he
like
made a
$50.
clear rig, which is really cool too. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but it's a fluorocarbon rig, and I just drop on fish half the time. But that is pretty cool. That's the umbrella rig trolling work, and it's just one of those things that's really easy to do. You don't need sophisticated electronics. You just kind of have to play with a couple little things like that, and you'll be all right. And once again, we're fishing points. We're trolling around windblown points, windblown areas. But you guys have to kind of understand like what your options are. If you're on a boat, then more than likely you don't have to be out there at the crack of dawn. And if you are, it's a bonus fight. But for the most part, when you're trolling, it's gonna be, you know, sun's barely up already, and you're trolling through like the whole day. And if you're trolling an umbrella rig, and they're gonna bite it, you don't have the timing for you guys is not that critical.
You probably want more sunlight for
Yeah.
the A-rig.
Yeah. See, that's the other thing too. Like if you're on the bank, what happens is the fish come to the bank at night, right before sunset. They feed aggressively. That's your I guess your window of opportunity, right?
Mhm.
And then when the sun comes up, they move offshore, and you can't cast far enough to them. Plus, you don't know where they're at. But if you're on a boat, then they go out there and then they suspend. A lot of these big hybrid schools, striper schools, they suspend. If you go over them with a boat, it's very easy to find them. Very easy. You'll find schools, 10, 20, 30 deep, and
Chilling.
they're all just chilling there. They're not doing anything. So what you do is you pull a rig right through them, and more than likely, if they're active, you'll catch two at a time. So. And depending on what time of the year too, because if you do that in the June month, you'll probably hang up 3, 4, 5 at a time. But if you're doing it in late September, you might only get one. You might not even get one. So, but that's the trolling world. Okay, so we have a couple of videos like that out, but we'll do more of those as the year goes.
Mm-hmm.
And then the way we really prefer to fish is we prefer to fish both of those worlds. So we like to get out there real early. We like to do a little bit of jerkbait crawling before it even gets to the point where we can throw top waters. And right when the moment is perfect, we start throwing top waters, start throwing swim baits and everything like that. And then we're basically chasing the school of fish as the day progresses or the day goes by. And so like I said, as what 9, 10 o'clock hits, that's when all the activity kind of dies down, and then they all go and they suspend. Either they suspend or they glue themselves at the bottom or something. But that's when the expensive electronics comes in. So the expensive electronics is traditional 2D sonar, side imaging. We have 360. We're just not really putting it to use yet. And there was the whole like live radar thing. And the live radar is very, 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 very tempting on us. We're pretty sure we're gonna buy this year too, but just waiting for somebody to get something in stock, basically. And what we like to do is we like to look at the fish on the fish finder. People call it fish finder, right? If you're a new guy to the fishing world, you call it fish finder. If you're a veteran of the sport, you call them electronics. Okay, so or some people call them sonar also. But what we like to do is we like to see them on the sonar somehow, or maybe we pass by them, and then we're like, "Yep, there's a bunch of school of fish there," and then we turn around and we cast to it, and we cast everything also. We cast umbrella, well, we cast umbrellas, castable umbrellas. We cast flukes. We cast swim baits. We cast lipless creeks. We cast gay blades. We cast spoons, small spoons, big spoons, bigger spoons. So we throw everything at them, and that's my favorite way of catching stripers. Like don't go there early. I like to get out there around 10, 11 when I already know the feeding frenzy is done, right? And they've come and they've suspended, or they come and they sit in one spot. Because when you're out there in the morning, as soon as you see them, they're gone. You see them again, they're gone. You can't chase them. They roam around too fast. But once 11 hits, between the 11 2 o'clock, they kind of slow down, and then they kind of drift off into one little area where they like to stay for maybe that week. And then I like to go and throw spoons at them. So that's how I like to catch them on the lakeside. And majority of the time, it's not really hard to find. You just if you have good electronics or if you're trolling, just focus most of your attention on points. They stage on points before they go spawn, and we come back, they're on points again. And then that's probably from February to about June. You can fish points all year. And then for the summer months, they're not really on points anymore. They're on humps. So
Off
you can
the points.
humps off the points. So if you can understand that, keep it that simple, you're probably pretty successful, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're probably pretty successful. All you gotta do is go to the first point. And if you have electronics or if you're trolling, uh, make like 3, 4 passes, nothing, go to the next point. Don't continue to keep trolling because there's no fish there. Stripers are pretty aggressive. If especially for us with our new boat, it's very high tech now. So when you drive over them, you should see, for the guys that know what I'm talking about, either you see spaghetti lines, it looks like spaghetti lines, or you can literally count how many fish are down there with a 2D inside the side imaging. And if you don't see that, if you don't see like this is definitely for sure stripers or hybrids, then you just keep moving. Don't even stop. Keep moving. Because those schools are so big, there's no mistaking it. It's like you get there and if you're debating if that was a carp or a hybrid or a striper, it's probably a carp. You only see like 2 or 3, you just keep moving. You keep moving until you see the big schools. So
mm-hmm. Yeah, and you see like 10 to like 20, 30, 40
mm-hmm.
feet deep, 40 deep, and then you're like, all right.
Yep. That's what you got to do. Keep it real simple like that. We've always been successful. There's a couple of times where there are no massive schools, and you have to focus your attention on those 5, 6, and 7s. But for the new guys, we don't want you to do that because those 4 and 5s, it feels like they're cruising fish, and they're really aggressive. You think the cast right on them, they will definitely get bit, but more than likely you're not going to understand your electronics good enough yet to make that cast. And really you only get like 2 shots at them, and then they're nowhere to be found.
Yeah, they're fast.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're not
really,
here and they're gone. Yeah,
they're not sitting in one spot. They're always constantly moving.
Yep. So let's go answer some questions.
I think it started off with like the Vision 110.
Which one? Yeah, so we got a couple guys in here that are like crazy gear enthusiasts, put it that way. And we got a couple other guys that are just here for a good time. So we got Luke that says if I fish naked, nobody will come near me. That's actually true. That's actually pretty true.
Don't do that.
Don't do that though. Don't do that. We got a couple other guys that agree. Mark D. Mark's been a loyal fan for us for I don't know how long, since the beginning days, I guess. Mark win blown points. So another guy says it. So that's the other thing about these live videos is we get a lot of feedback from the other guys too. And if you guys are reading the comments, a lot of times we'll have something that we miss in the comments the guys have thrown in there too. So be sure to read all the comments. There's a lot of good things there. Yeah. So David's like, man, when the birds are diving, you just 20 yards further than you cast. Yeah. So when the birds are diving, I think. So this is a video we still want to do this year. I still want to go to at least maybe Keystone so Keystone. This is way before we started really filming a lot. There was one trip we went out there on a John boat, and
it was like August.
Was it August? It was like late August. Yeah, we got out there, and this is underwater hump. And if you know Keystone, there's only 2 humps out there. Okay, we got this underwater hump, and it was dead. Right, there was hardly any wind, nothing. Right, and then I threw a giant spoon, and I caught a magnum white bass, like a big one. And then I caught a big old catfish. And we're like, at least we didn't skunk. And then prime time hit, and like this boil of white bass. There has to be a striper in there too, right? But you didn't catch any?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was like, oh my goodness. There was like 1,000 white bass and stripers just going crazy. And we were the only boat there, weren't we? Like fishing them?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were the only boat that was fishing for them. A bunch of other guys were like trolling offshore, a couple of bass boats down in the creek. And I can't remember how many we caught, but I knew we threw a bunch back. We kept the big ones, and we still kept like roughly 20.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a ridiculous day.
And then it was dark, and they're still blitzing.
Yeah, the craziest part is like usually the blitz happens, and then right when it like gets dark enough where you get kind of scared because we didn't have headlights on the boat either, and you're like, we really should go. Right at that moment. Usually the blitz always dies down. That day the blitz just kept going and going, and we kept on catching them. And then it got to the point where I was like, we actually have to go because we can't. We were like 3 miles away from the closest boat ramp too, and that was the first time we've been on that side of the lake. And I was like, man, we gotta go. We just gotta go. So we took off. We left them biting basically. That's still the craziest topwater bite we've ever seen, ever. Because we were maybe 100 yards offshore. There's like a shallow bar. You would have fished in the farthest, deepest, or farthest, shallowest area, and on top of this bar, it was blitzing from us all the way to the bank. Mm-hmm. It was crazy, and then
the birds were going crazy.
Yeah, the birds were freaking flying around, diving, and then we were just trying to catch as many white bass as we could. We could catch them on top water. We could catch them on lipless. It didn't matter at the time. Caught them on flukes.
It was a fun day.
It was like a Thursday after work too, man.
I think I threw an A-ray and caught 3.
Yeah.
And then we put it away.
Yeah. Yeah, it's freaking nuts. It was a crazy experience. I think this thing got one little clip of it.
Yeah.
We didn't get like a full blown video.
It's on my Facebook, so it reminds me every year. It's like, hey, this.
It was crazy. That's all I gotta say. And that was when okay, so here's another tip for the boat guys, right? This is an excellent tip we got from Mike Akinel, okay? When you go out there and there's a blitz and the blitz stops, turn on that motor in the back and just do some figure eights. It stirs up the water and it stirs up the big fish and they get crazy in it and the white bass go crazy in it. It worked that day. We did 3 times.
No, well, it really worked because we're chasing boils.
Yeah.
So we're running back and forth like this, chasing boils, and then as soon as we get to the other one, I guess the fish get scared and then they die, right? Yeah. So the boil goes away, and we will probably catch 1 or 2. But where we just left, they're boiling back over there. So we bust a U-turn, we go back.
Yep.
And then we're just running back and forth.
Right. So that was one of the reasons why the running back and forth actually kept them going. Now, recently, this past summer, I took my dad fishing with me in the big boat, right? And I kind of did the same thing. Okay, so last week, Loke from DTF was talking about the thumper. The thumper is basically a machine that just goes like that. It just keeps. I don't really know what it is. I think it's a rubber mallet that thumps on some piece of wood or something. But it's a machine that just does that. And you put it on the bottom of your boat, and it gets that thumping sound, so the fish go crazy, right? But anyways, that concept, you could do that with the outboard. You turn it on, just run around like crazy. You drain with a bunch of waves, a bunch of sound. I think the fish kind of go, the bait fish go into panic mode, and it's a trigger for the white bass stripers to hit them. So well, going back to my story, over the summer, I took my dad fishing, and we didn't catch anything during the morning, but we went back to check this one spot where we started at. And I got there and I had the trolling motor on, like just barely under the surface, right? Where if you step on it, it'll like go, you can hear it, like you can physically hear it. So the water was real shallow. Okay, put it that way. It was only like 2 foot of water. So the big motor on the back was just tilted way up, and it was on the trolling motor the whole time. And every time I stepped on the trolling motor, I kept it on it, and we would go about 20 yards, a blitz would happen. And my dad would just cast a little crankbait out there and catch a couple. So I thought, well, that's kind of weird. Why are the fish blitzing when we're leaving, right? And then so I'm blitzing, I do U-turn quickly and catch one. Then I thought about it. I was like, oh, I think I'm triggering them to bite. So the idea from that trip came back, and I was like, why don't I just do figure eight? Why don't I just go in circles? So I started going in circles. And the blitz starts happening every time I go in the circle. So I would tell my dad, hey, Dad, get ready. This is about to happen. So I go in the circle and then start blitzing. My dad cast to him. It was great. It was a good fishing for like 3-4 hours. Because if you didn't do that, they didn't bite. It's weird. I don't know how. And on top of that, like speed kills that day too. So at first we'd see them blitzing, them boiling, and then we throw it out there with slow line. They wouldn't touch it. And then I threw it out there. I have a 7-gear ratio steez, right? So when I throw them, when I burn a 7, it is quick. It's coming back quick. So I throw it out there, I burn it back, catch one. Throw it out there, burn it back, catch one. Watching my dad, he just like slow line. I'm like, no, Dad, you gotta go as fast as you can. So my dad started doing that. He was catching them faster than I was. He's got a big Stella reel. Good time. So those little things should help you guys out. The guys on the boats. Let's see. Would you recommend Mega Bass 110 and 120?
They're good, but they are expensive.
If you don't even think about the price, put it this way: stripers and hybrids, we catch them, but I don't recommend that bait for anything bigger than a 20-inch striper because them hooks ain't gonna hold up.
Yeah, and
them hooks just don't know.
They're really made for finesse fishing for largemouth bass.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if you upgrade your hooks, then they're gonna sink.
Yeah. So that's our quick answer to it. But do they get bit? Yes, they do. Stripers, white bass, love them.
By imitation baits.
Yeah, this is the other thing too. Like, if the Mega Bass lures, we have maybe $200, $300, $400 worth of them, right? I would say don't use them for non-tournament fish because you don't need them to be, that good. Go buy the copycat ones and definitely use them. Okay. Headhunter lures makes a really good one, and
even the H2O one from Academy looks
good. Anything that kind of looks like it should be just fine. Go ahead with good.
I mean, you could buy the Provoke from 6 cents, which is half the price, like $11. Mm-hmm. They look good. Mm-hmm. The Spro one looks good.
The Spro Mix Stick is another one that's real good. Okay, real good. I really like it. That's real deep. Good. That's deep. Got good quality hooks out of the package.
Yeah, those work good. I mean, duals at $16, they work good too.
A lot of people swear by the duals, but I haven't caught much like white bass stripers. Maybe because I throw the 120. I should probably downsize to the 110. But when it comes to duals, then I like the 120. I just don't know why. I just do.
It's just a jerk bait
caster. I think
it's just a jerk bait. Striper will smash it.
Yep. When is Hybrid Killer going to make one? He's probably talking about
the trolling. I made one already.
We made one, but
Haven't put baits on it.
We still haven't put it through the ringer yet. Put it that way.
We will show it this year.
We will show it this year though. You guys will see it for sure.
It'll be fun.
Is it true that striper fishing in winter is slow? I know it picks up in February, March for sure. Yeah, finesse kid. Basically, it's not slow. You just don't know how to catch them. I'll be honest. Like, fishing is never slow. You need to keep that in your mind if you're gonna be like an advanced angler later, or if you want to be really good at it. You have to keep in mind that fishing is never slow. It's just you're just not catching them. Because after we started tournament fishing, that has already been beaten into our brains. If Luke is still on, Luke knows what we're talking about. You go out, it's like the worst conditions. It's super hot, and you don't even want to be there. And you're thinking even the fish are sweating, and you go out and you catch like 3, and you're like, I did pretty good. I think I'm gonna win this tournament. And then you come in, and you are in like 20th place because somebody caught them really good. Same with the stripers, right? It's wintertime, and you might think, oh man, ain't nobody catching them. Ain't nobody catching them.
But then when the fish are active, they get stupid. They might even hit top water in 45-degree water.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they got that mentality of, I'm going to get it before you do.
Mm-hmm.
And then they chase bait to the surface, and hey, now they're hitting top water.
Yep.
And it just gets crazy in the wintertime.
Mm-hmm.
But you do have your windows in the wintertime. They have really your prime time, which is your before sunset and after the sunrise, like that hour before, or man, that's like golden. Yep. You just gotta catch them during that time.
That's what it is.
And like what last year we were fishing a point for largemouth, and all of a sudden all the hybrids moving. Remember?
Skiatook?
No, on Pumpback.
Ooh,
yeah.
It
was July. I mean, it was January.
That was middle of January. Oh no, yeah, middle of January.
Yeah,
middle of January.
Was like 45, 42.
Yeah, that video is actually out too. I think that was one of the raw videos I released, just straight raw. It was like, you guys want to watch that? I was dropping A-rigs in like probably 20 foot of water, right? And I caught a hybrid. I broke off a hybrid. And I caught like 4 white bass. But it was pretty crazy. It was middle winter, and there was almost no wind, and the water temp was probably like 44, 45.
Yeah,
it was fairly cold.
40s, yeah.
Yeah, it was fairly cold for our neck of the woods. It's pretty cold, right? Yeah, you couldn't buy a bite during the day. You couldn't buy a bite. You see them on sonar, you drop it down there, they won't even touch it. But for some magical reason, right when the sun drops, they were acting like it was summertime.
Yeah, they were chasing bait to the surface.
They were chasing bait to the surface.
Birds was
diving. You can see the swirls, and you don't see the boosh out of the water, but when they came to the surface chasing bait, when they go back down, you see that boil kind of come like that. There was a bunch of those. You look at your sonar, it was just like crazy.
Yeah, and they're hitting your little ride, the kayak.
It was like a kayak.
I mean, you could even that day you could be on the bank and catfish.
Yeah. Could have caught on the bank too, because my kayak was only like
because I was power pulling 6 feet of water,
20 yards off the bank, not even.
Yeah,
right. Yeah,
they were chasing bait to the bank.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. And I think I did catch one in 5 foot of water.
Yeah, they were crazy.
Yeah, on that like 5 foot of water, it was like 10 foot off the bank. It's pretty steep. Yep. All right.
How about winter dam fishing?
Winter dam fishing.
Winter dam fishing is okay. It's still gonna be slow.
Yeah, it's gonna be a little slow. It feels like, dam fishing. Okay, so the dam fishing. Now you gotta think water temps, right? Before this, water temp wasn't so critical, but I think the way I can explain it is, if you're fishing the dam when the water is not on, right? The water is really cold, so they gotta get into like that. I don't want to move mode, but when they flush water, the water that's coming out of the dam is actually warmer than the water they're in or currently in. So I think that's like a wake up call for them, and then they get more active. I think that's the way it is, because if the water is not running in the wintertime, it is a lot harder to catch fish because you have to go to the suspending jerk bait, or you have to throw the A rig, and that's pretty much all you can do really for that. But when the water's on, it feels like people are pretty successful throwing flukes again, like drifting flukes. The whole bobber thing, that thing works pretty good. A rig is on fire. If you're able to get the jam, the A rig just takes over every time.
Do you prefer artificial baits over live bait?
95% of the times I do.
But you can't be live bait if you're chasing big fish.
Yeah, but 95% of the times I do. I tell you why, because I don't have to carry a bubbler
or maintain
or worry about they're gonna die
or catch bait.
No, one time we caught like 10 like gizzard shads and we kept them in a little bucket and we put the air bubbler and everything. But the next day you woke up to go fishing, there was only one left. The rest of them all dead. Yeah, that's why. That's exactly why. I don't like doing.
But we probably do some of those this year. We want to catch some trout and let them free swim into a strawberry's mouth. So,
can you use cast net on Lord and Woods?
Huh?
Can you use cast net on Lord and Woods?
I think certain part you can.
Yeah.
I mean, we could use live shad, but the thing here is using live trout for large state record.
We're gonna catch like a 14-inch trout, and we're gonna drift them in the Arkansas. Right? That's right, clear, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, drift in the Arkansas, and hopefully we catch like a 40-pound striper. Hopefully.
That's one of the goals.
That's one of the goals, But yeah, live bait there's moments in time where live bait is king, okay? Because if a fish is not very hungry and you put something in front of them, that's when live bait takes over, okay? It really does take over. Like, for example, if you're crappie fishing in the wintertime, I feel like the live bait, if you don't have great electronics, live bait pretty much is the only way to catch it.
And you don't have to do the work.
Yeah, you don't have to do the work. You just watch the bobber. Boop. Yeah, got 3 videos on that. Go back and watch it. Like the last couple weeks. It's pretty easy. Okay, that's when live bait really takes over. And if you got a bunch of friends with you on that trip and you guys want to have fun, kind of drink, eat, stuff like that all the time, then yeah, live bait is the way to go. Bar none. Don't even talk about it. Live bait. Throw it out there. Everybody just hangs out, watch for line movement. Basically, it's the way to do it. But if you're running into like if that's not the case, right? Say me and Hua just goes fishing. We tend to not carry live bait because we're power fishing. We like to move around. We like to look for the aggressive fish. We like to cause a reaction bite, which is something that nobody talks about in the world of stripers. So if you're gonna do a reaction bite, then you don't need live bait. In a sense, the live bait is a reaction bite, right? Mm-hmm. Because if he's not hungry, but you drop that live bait right in front of him, he's gonna come check it out, and he's gonna be like, "Man, this shad's dumb," so he'll eat it, right? It's a reaction bait. Like he didn't even go running for it. Well, in the world of bass fishing, this is where bass fishing and striper fishing we try to mix them a lot because we've been in both worlds. Is like the spoon, the big spoon, the Magnum spoon that I like to throw so much. It's a 6-inch spoon. It looks nothing like anything a striper would eat. But the thing is, that thing is just moving up and down. Like it goes up and it falls and it's super erratic. And they get curious and they come and they'll bite it. So for us, I'd rather do that than carry a bucket or a live well full of bait that, sometimes when I chuck out there, they come flying off, stuff like that. So that's just us. But some people completely disagree. If you're going to troll, live bait is pretty cool too. We've never done it before, but definitely going to be on the to-do list. Okay, that's my opinion on it. Mm-hmm. Right?
Maybe planners.
Yep, planner boards and all that stuff. So definitely. I know on Beaver Lake, they troll like bluegills and stuff like that. So I was like, yeah, probably. Yep. Mm-hmm. You guys, I guess it's Shermrock. Shermrock's a pretty good question. So he says, you guys got any tips for using lures in general? I can't catch nothing on the lure to save my life, but I can catch catfish with the best of them. Okay, so when it comes to lures, I think you have to tend to be aggressive. If you like to catfish, then for the most part, if you're doing live baits and you're kind of staying fairly stationary, and you want to advance or not advance, but transition to lures, you have to be more aggressive in terms of moving around. Okay, so put it this way: the lures, the fish can tell that it's fake. Okay, so if you give it enough time, he will look at it. He might nip it out of like curiosity, but that's it. I don't think he's gonna swallow it. Okay, like versus if you threw him a chunk of say chicken liver or something, right? He'll eat it, but it's pretty nice. Don't swallow, right? But for the most part, a lure, I think you're there to trick him. Like that should be your idea going in, right? You're there to trick him. Okay, he's not there to eat your plastic worm because he knows it's not real, or your metal crankbait, or your plastic crankbait, or anything like that. So you're there to trick fish. So the best way to trick them is one, uh, really buy them real fast. Okay, well I say real fast. Try not to get snagged up, but as fast as you can without getting snagged up. Right?
Yeah.
And two is like sometimes you want to. That's why a top water works so good. Like right at that prime time light because the fish can't tell if it's a real thing or not. He knows it's just moving around up there, and he's just like, you know what? That kind of looks like a shad. I'm just gonna go smoke it. So they do. They hit it. So that's the thing too. Okay, and if it doesn't work, you gotta keep moving. Okay, uh, the world of live bait, you throw it in a good spot. You kind of wait, and there should be fish in the area that can smell it, they can sense it, they come and they'll get it. But in the world of lures, you have to put it this way: you have to go to the fish, right? And you have to make the most amount of casts to the fish. So if you do like 4 or 5 casts, he's not interested. Go to the next fish. Go to the next fish. Next fish. Next fish. Think of it like that, and you'll get a lot better with the lures.
And using lures in general, different lures has different retrieve, so you just gotta learn to retrieve on that lure. And they got different days for lures has different application. Just thinking about their tools to use for different jobs, right? So some days you're using a certain lures and they're not biting. Well, this is not for that job that day, so you gotta use a different lure, and you might get bit. So you just gotta change. Like we'll take a tackle box full of lures, but we'll make like 10 casts or 5 minutes on one lure, and they're not on this. And you switch out to a different lure, and then you do another like 10, 20 casts, and you're like, they're not on this too. You switch. And when you do a rotation through all your lures, eventually you might find one that they're on. And then you're like, oh, they're on this today. And then everybody just switched to that one lure because some days they want maybe like a spoon, or some days they want like a jerk bait because maybe they're suspended. So in general, you just gotta find that lure, perfect that lure, and find like how the fish are behaving that day. If they're on the bottom, the top, or the middle, and you'll catch your fish.
Yep. Lures are a lot easier to maintain, basically, and I feel like you don't lose as much money in the long run because if you buy a lure and you never lose it, it continues to catch fish for you, right? If you go live bait, I guarantee you're dropping a minimum of $5 every time you go, right? Because you got to go buy those minnows, right? I'm talking little minnows, small quantities too. If you buy a lot, it's probably $10, $15. If you buy crawfish, it's going to be more expensive. If you buy bluegills, it's more expensive. If you buy salamanders, it's more expensive. If you buy tadpoles, it's more expensive. If you buy earthworms are like $5 for like a dozen now. That's pretty expensive. And if you buy the black salty, which is, we got to get to that. We get to Texoma, okay? Texoma, get some black salties.
Or Beaver Lake.
Black salties, okay? Talk about that in a bit. We're almost there. We're not there yet. All right, so that's why I feel that artificial lures versus legit like bait There's a time and a place, right? But it just kind of depends on what you like to do. Really, it does depend on what you like to do. If you feel like you're a very skilled angler already, then you probably will never. You kind of actually look down on like artificial stuff or
Mhm.
all the live bait stuff until live bait's beating you in the face, and then you're like, all right, you know what, throw it out there. Because there's a moment in time. There's going to be moments in time where the striper and the white bass will not touch anything that does not look exactly like what's in the water. I mean, it has to be like exact to the T. So if there's moments in time, right? This is usually like midsummer when the bait is real small, right? When the bait is real small, it's only like an inch long. Man, if you could just catch one of the little like shads and just put on like a little like what size 8 hook, and you put a little bobber, you throw it out there. As soon as it falls in, it's gone. Okay, versus throwing a game blade, throwing a little rooster tail, throwing a little Acme cast smasher, a little CeeLo spoon. Like those will catch them pretty good, but they're never going to be as good as the actual real thing. It's just there's just moments in time, right? And then there's the flip side, right? Uh, say it's post spawn, it's June, they're all stacked on humps, right? And if you guys pay attention to the guides, a lot of the guides will say, "Oh, we found them, but they just didn't want to play," right? And when the guides go out, they're always packing shad. That's their business. They do chartered trips and they give everybody shad. They downline everything. So the shad is alive and it's swimming around on it, but the hybrid don't want to hit it. They just ate. They're pretty full, right? So that's when if you're good with a spoon, the spoon can wake up that school. I call them hitting them on the head. So you drop this giant spoon and you literally like let it go and it hits a hybrid or a striper in the head.
It'll bounce off the
Yeah.
fish.
It'll bounce off that fish. It'll cause that fish to dart off. And I think that kind of triggers like a feeding frenzy. And then if you hit them a couple of times, not the same fish, but a couple of fish, hit them a couple of times, one of them's going to come and hit it. And when that one hits it, you're good. You're bound to catch 4 or 5 of them, immediately, pretty quick. Do we ever fish tinker?
We fish 10 kilo for that.
We
target stripe. Like
we're gonna do more 10 kilo this year for sure, right? Because I heard a lot of good stories this past year, even though we should have went there, but we didn't. I hear the white bass on 10 killer. It's crazy
and massive
in massive schools when they're pre-spawn trying to head up that river. And there's only one major river coming in. But I heard stories, people catching them by the hundreds, okay? And this is on Facebook too, so it's not like I'm hiding this no secret. Everybody should be able to find it. 30 to 45 foot of water, catching them 2 at a time on crappie jigs. You just gotta drop forever to get a 30 foot. But when I go, I'll probably throw that 1 ounce spoon where you get down there like 3 seconds. Yeah, but we're definitely doing that. Definitely doing that. 10 killer, white bass pre-spawn and spawn. See, that's the other thing, right? I don't know if our big boat can get up the river. I have no idea. I've never actually been there, so the big boat could probably go as far as it can go, but it's probably not going to hit the best honey holes. I think what I'm going to do is still up in the air, but I think what I'm wanting to do is take the John boat and convert it to a super shallow running boat. So basically, jack the motor super high on its back, maybe install some pods, and install a water pump that pumps water to the engine so it doesn't overheat. Might be a whole build series. I've ordered a couple parts already and play with the theory of it, so we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. And there's also Eufaula. Those places are always really, really good. But yeah, 10 killer, good fishery. We're probably gonna go there. I'm not even sure this year if we're gonna qualify for it or not. But the Oklahoma kayak anglers, our state championship, this is bass fishing now, is held on 10 killer this year. So we still have to somehow sneak our way in there somehow. We'll do our best, but this year is going to be all stripers, white bass, hybrids focused. and then we'll
And
kind of
walleye.
sneak.
A little walleye too.
Yeah, a little walleye too, definitely for sure walleyes, and a whole bunch of other redneck stuff. So I kind of want to go shoot a duck this weekend too, out of my kayak. We'll see if that happens or not. But yeah, 10 killers on there, definitely 10 killer above the lake and definitely below the lake. So keep an eye out for that. Might do some camping trips, even though it's not allowed in the area. I don't think Keystone allows camping on the river.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
if you're
there's campsites down
there's
there.
campsites, but I
Camp
kind of
down
want to
there.
go camp like on a random island
Yeah.
on the river. They probably say no, but I don't think the game warden's gonna travel in the river to kick you out. I don't know. They do. They do? Yeah. All right, I'll come over and I'll be like, hey, you want to come enjoy some strike? Let's eat first before we go. Yes, Captain Hook's in the house. Captain Hook is one of the original 5 24/7 outdoor addiction guys. So Captain Hook's pretty cool. You guys see him on the channel all the time. And he doesn't fish nothing but game blades,
T10s.
and T10s, and umbrella bait. That's all he does. He's really good at it too. Really good. If you need a how to troll, hit up Captain Hook. You guys need a man. Okay, so David Chang says when fishing windy points, how fast of a wind are you looking for and direction is best? It doesn't matter. Put it that way. It doesn't matter if it's blowing 5 miles per hour or 50 miles per hour.
You want to, I mean,
Yeah.
just be safe and see if you could throw your lures out there.
Mm-hmm.
But pretend 5 to 20 is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Any more than that, it's kind of overblown.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if the fish are biting,
as long as the water is not muddy,
yeah,
okay, that's the main thing. Like if the water is hitting, if you're on like a rocky bank, if it's just hitting rock, and like the wash goes back and it's still clear, it's a little dingy but it's still clear, you're fine. It's bad when it's like super clear coming in, like 10 foot out, it's super clear, and there's a mud line. Mudline's very iffy. I mean, there's moments where I've actually almost won a major tournament off of mudlines, but 9 out of 10 times they're not in the mudline. They might be at the edge of the mudline, but they won't be in it. So depending on how far that mudline's off away from you already, it might be better just to go find a different spot. But don't get me wrong, cast sometimes then go. But if you drive up, it already looks like that, then you kind of like, I don't know if I should even try it. Like that type of boat, you might just go out there, cast a couple times, and then next spot. Don't spend too much time on it. Daniel Sage just moved here and never fished anything other than catfish. Now I'm fishing for all and can do it. I can't do it. Too hard. He's still in our boat. When he first moved here. It's pretty hard.
Yeah.
It's pretty hard. Oklahoma fishing is completely different
from everywhere else.
Dam fishing is really frustrating because every time you go there, you make a cast, you get snagged on the bottom of the rocks. Like I said, the lakes are all private property mostly, so you can't walk around anywhere. So it kind of forces you to buy a boat. It kind of does, or at least a kayak.
You don't have to. Right now, it's just a slowest part of the season. So
Yeah.
I mean, you still catch fish when you go out, but you gotta wait until like what they say, February, March. Mm-hmm. That's when your days are longer. The water starts to warm back up because you got longer days than nights now. Because after December 21st, that's the shortest day of the year. So every day you pack on 3 minutes?
Yeah, something like that. Every
3
day
to 6 minutes. Every day you pack on 3 minutes. So after 30 days, you pack on like an hour. So in February, it's gonna get dark around like 7 now. And then of course you have more sunlight than night light, and then your water temps goes back up, and that's when the fish starts to move.
All right, so yeah, the other thing I was kind of want to go over just a seasonal pattern, like a real quick seasonal pattern. It could get very, very, very technical, but I just want to do like a very generalized. So, because that's kind of what this video is very generalized. If you guys really want to talk about it, then we could break it out another video we could actually talk about where to look for in wintertime, where to look for in springtime, where to look for, summertime, fall, right? But just for right now, we're just trying basically just gauging interest to see what you guys want to talk about, and we'll come up with another topic for next week. So basically, in the wintertime, you want to focus on, like, I call them underwater bluffs, or an area where the water kind of, this is like Toronto again, kind of a flat area, then it kind of just drops off. They tend to be a lot hanging around that stuff. Um, Not very active. It's a little tricky to catch. Uh, E-rigs were great, okay, and little swim baits, small stuff tends to be better. At least that's what Loke told me from DTF. They catch a lot of their fish up in Kansas. These guys are like the Kansas sticks, okay, on very, very small baits. I mean, we're talking like crappie jig baits, hybrid stripers. They all hit crappie baits, right? But when you talk to us, we say, yes, definitely do that. But you also have to incorporate a reaction bait in there. So for us, the reaction bait, our best reaction bait is probably the E-ring. You drop the E-ring right on him, have it hover right above his head, and they just, yeah, that or a spoon, like a slab spoon, just dropped around his head. It might work too. So those are kind of three options for winter fishing. Springtime, up the creeks. 90% of your fish will be up the creek. Running water creek. Keep that in mind. It has to be running water. If it's not running water, you might get lucky. You might run into a pack, but they're not behaving like normal stripers and like that. So you want some type of running water. Before the major rainstorms, they're all like, you can have a really warm 2 or 3 weeks, and the temperature in the lake comes up, but they won't run yet. Like the full run is not there yet. So they'll stage in the pre-spawn areas. Pre-spawn areas are kind of like the main lake mouths. Yeah, mouths. The mouths of rivers and creeks. That's pre-spawn areas. And they'll be stacked. Best time to catch them on a boat. And then, say the third major rainstorm comes by. Now they're all the way up the creeks. All the way up the creeks. Muddy water doesn't seem to matter at that point. Right? But if you have clear running water, it's even better. But they don't really, in Oklahoma, it feels like all of our lakes, Grand Lake, Oolaga, Keystone, Texoma, 10 Killer, they're all dirty. At the top end of the lake, it's always dirty. So, especially after a major rainstorm, we got debris going in there. We got tree branches floating everywhere. We got snakes crossing the rivers. We got, it's everything. So, but for some reason, the striper doesn't care. They go up there and they spawn. So if you're up there to spawn, man, they crazy too. They bite real good. When we first moved to Oklahoma, we fished the dams a lot because of that. Because we weren't very good at fishing, so we only targeted the good times to go fishing. That was always during the spawns. So if you have a dam, say you have a dam up the creek, that's prime spot, something that blocks current, right? So it's either a current block, you're fishing behind a lay down tree, or a giant boulder in the creek or the river, or literally, and some people call it a road. A road that crosses a creek can be very good too, okay? Especially on Grand. There's a couple of areas on Grand where say like a neighborhood bridge, and it kind of looks kind of worn down, but there's only like 3 or 4 holes this big that allows the creek to flow through it. Because when the creek goes high, it actually flows over the street, right? Prime spot. Not gonna tell you where that's at. You need to do research to find those. There's only like 3 or 4 spots like that on Grand. But the locals swear by it. I mean, when you get there, it's all hush hush, and there's like 10 of them just sitting there. It's whack, Okay. Okay, so that's the spring. So that's the spawn. And let's say summer is going to be post spawn and deep water fishing, right? So right after the spawn, what do you want to look for?
The main lake points and the humps.
Mm-hmm.
Deep
stuff.
Point. Yeah.
Deep stuff.
By like 25 and deeper.
Mm-hmm. Deep stuff.
They'll be rolling those flat and then be feeding back up. So
you might get a topwater bite. The topwater might start in June. It might, depending on where you're at. But yeah.
I mean, it starts in April,
Mm-hmm.
top water bites, but
Mhm.
when they're going back deep, they're not pushing unless they're pushing bait up to the surface. But most of the time, they stay deep.
Yep. Most of the time, they're gonna be deep.
And you got to think
Most
about
of the
it when the striper they spawn in 55-degree water temp, right?
Something like that.
And the bait fish, which is your shad, they spawn around 65 water temp.
Yep.
So when the shad are up spawning, the stripers are munching.
So yeah, stripers go spawn, and on the way out, the shad come in. Guess what happens?
Yeah.
Be there.
So they'll be there until the shad moves back out. They're
Yeah.
done with their spawn, and then the bait fish gonna move back deep,
Mhm.
and then the stripers gonna fall in back deep.
Right.
And then
Mm-hmm.
when
That's
you have
the
your little
best time
bait
of
fish growing, of course your little strapper has to hatch first to eat the little bait fish that's gonna hatch, right?
Right.
Circle of life. Well, when they go deep, your bait fish go deep, your big strappers go deep, these little bait fish grows, and then your baby strapper grows, and they eat those, and then your bait fish is gonna be like 1 inch. That's like the hardest time to catch them.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's gonna be like trillions, kabillions, bazillions of
That is when the
little
speed
ones.
kills. So if you
Yeah.
don't have a lure that's small enough, just gonna wind it faster.
Mhm.
Speed kills.
And then your striper is gonna be more suspended now because they have bait, they have food everywhere,
Mm-hmm.
so they're gonna be even tougher to catch. But it brings in the fun time though. They're gonna hit top water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's when the top water happens, or the shad spawn really happens, and the shad spawn is a really good time to fish, but a lot of people miss it, and this is where the bank guys really come into play. The shad come to the bank, okay,
Spawn, yeah.
to spawn. So for you guys, you'll be catching them literally a foot away from the bank. It's literally that cool to see. But it only happens for like maybe 2 weeks out of the whole year, huh?
It just depends.
Yeah. So you have it's like if you missed it, you missed it. It's not happening until next year, like 365 days out. It'll come back. But yeah, I've been out on Skiatook with 47 on the Little John boat, where we got there. We were trying to catch hybrids. Yeah, we actually caught a bunch of hybrids in it, but we got there and I had forgotten. Like this is one of those years where it was like the shad spawn happens a little later than normal. So we got there like late April. It was pretty warm already, and there was a bunch of people fishing with us. And before you know it, like the sun was it was still dark. We got out there, the first light. You can see first light, and you just see movement. There was a lot of just weird movement in the grass because the lake was like probably 10 foot high. A lot of movement in the grass, and I look over and I'm just like instantly like, that's a shad spawn. And then you look behind, it was like a big, those big V's that you see. This big V just started off in like 10 foot of water, and all of a sudden it just ran real quick into the trees because someone was chasing it. And then once it got to the trees, I think there was bass that was in the trees ambushing them, and the white bass ambushing, hybrids ambushing, and it was just crazy. You couldn't throw a T10 top water over there. Like every time it hits the surface, it gets melted. And we caught. I don't know, I lost track. Those are the days where you're just like, I want to try all these other lures and see if they work. But the lures that you have in your tackle box, and you're like, this has been here for like 2 years. I need to throw it, see if it works. And yeah, and then some of them don't. You chuck them basically. But yeah,
And for your fall bite,
for the fall bite. Okay, so summertime you can also troll. Great time to troll. Not a lot of people out there. There's jet ski people. We hate those guys, but great time to troll. The umbrella rig trolling thing is epic. Okay, early summer, Magnum spoon. I'm still kind of mad because I kind of missed that bite. I only got the tail end of it. We should have wrecked him this year, but we didn't. We didn't have enough time. Too much bass fishing. Anyway, summer bite. Summer bite. I like to fish at night. That's what I like to do. If I had to pick, I fish at night. I like to go out there, say 6 o'clock. No, the doesn't get dark till like 9, 7:30. You get out there at 7:30, everybody pulls their boats out of the water, right, and you load in. And basically, I like to go to I don't fish deep no more. I focus in the shallows because I know during the night the stripers come shallow. Stripers, white bass, hybrids come shallow. So you're looking, 10 foot casting to 3-4 foot, slow winding it back. The jerk baits, they come back into play. It doesn't seem like the A-rig work is good for me in the nighttime, so I don't throw that. To me, the top water bite's not that good, so I don't throw that either. It's all about like a vibration, some type of vibration in the water. So a jointed jerkbait is super awesome. I still to this day like the bomber
15.
15. It's 15. It's called 15A or 15J because jointed. It's the one that's got 3 treble hooks on it. That just feels like that was magical at night. During the day, it doesn't do anything. It's too much action. But at night, it's perfect. I also like to throw a big square bill, like just a Strike King 2.5. During the day, that's a big crankbait, but at night, it just feels like it's perfect. When you slow wind it, it's just got like a big rolling thump. Some people swear by a spinnerbait. I've never thrown it. I imagine it should work as well. But yeah, summertime stripers at night. It's too hot during the day, anyways. But there is that morning bite. Don't get me wrong. There's that morning bite, but as soon as that morning bite is done, just pack and go. That's why I don't really like the morning bites. That type of stuff in the summertime as much.
Unless you go at midnight and you fish till the morning.
So we have done that. We have done that too.
That's kind of crazy.
Yep, those are the crazy nights. And those people that are third shift guys, and they get off at 6 and they immediately head to the lake. Those guys are troopers.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the striper night bite. Let me give you like a rough rundown too. There's periods of time the stripers are active. Right when the sun drops, they're active for about very active actually 30 minutes. Very active, and then they kind of like get confused.
They wait for their eyes to adjust.
Yeah, maybe they wait for the eyes to adjust or something. So say the sun falls at 8, right? From 8 to 8:30 is magic. It feels like everybody on the boat gets bit, right? And then from about 8:30 to about 9:30, it's day. It's nothing. And then you get another bite window happens between like 10 and 11. It's pitch black. You can't see nothing. But they bite again. And then they go dead again. And then you have to wait till like 1:30. And you get another bite window. And then they're dead. They're dead from then all the way to like the morning bite. So when we go out, we don't wait till the 1 o'clock. We just hit the 8:31 and we hit the 10:31. And then midnight you pack it up, go home. But that's what I love doing because it's so hot. Like Oklahoma, like a normal summer day. I mean, granted, the last year or so, our weather hasn't been like normal, but normal Oklahoma day during the sun, during the like heat of the summer, like late July, early August, it's like 106. That's like a normal temperature, like during the day, with no wind too. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times we don't want to go out when it's super hot. So when you show up at the ramp at 7:38, 8 o'clock, it's still about 100, 105, but you're only there for maybe an hour, and then the sun drops and it's really cool after that because on the lake there's always like a lake breeze that happens at night, so it's always good. But that's the summer bite. In the summer bite, like I said, we're fishing shallow. We're not doing that deep stuff. Well, during the summer, if it's during the day, the spoons you fish deep. But if it's true summer, then in the night I like to fish shallow. It's just it's one of those things. It's just nothing really beats the whole like. Okay, you might as well close your eyes because you can't see anything, right? Yeah,
I can see a little bit.
Yeah, but it's like comparing dark gray to black. So you cast out there, you just slow line, twitch, maybe.
Yeah, you're just going through the motion. Yeah. Everything's on feel.
Yeah, it's all feel, and all of a sudden, I got one. It's like that. Yeah, it's really good. It's really good. And for some reason at night the bites are just way more ferocious. Yeah. I don't know what it is. Like the striper seems like it comes from 20 yards away. It is a torpedo on a mission and it just goes. Ugh. So it's really good. The bites at night, they're just really good. All right, and then we go into the fall. Fall, top water, top water, umbrella rigs, start to play again. The swim baits, underhead spins are really good in the fall, and this basically
The
top
fish
water.
are
Right?
feeding up, so
Yeah.
they gotta feed
Top
up
water.
for the winter.
Top
They gotta
water.
get fat.
The top water game is pretty cool because we're no longer fishing just points. Top water can happen everywhere, anywhere, anytime.
In the middle of the lake.
Middle of the lake, 50, 60 foot, and they're on the surface. I've actually caught fish like that multiple times. Uh, yeah, top water. It's the best ever. It doesn't matter if it's blur days. It don't matter if it's hurricane conditions. If they're gonna hit top water, they're gonna hit top water.
Well, hurricane conditions just don't throw that water.
Yeah.
Just throw a little crankbait.
Throw crankbait or throw day rig or troll umbrella rig is just as good too. It's the fall time. The fall time, I will have to say, is the best, my favorite time to fish with striper. My favorite time. Because you still have to work for that bite a little bit, but you still get a bunch of bites. So compared to the springtime where it feels like everybody's just handed bites. You don't have to work for it. You don't have to get better at fishing. You just show up and you just get bites.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Wintertime is back to those drop off little drop off areas. I mean, granted, every once in a while you'll run into like a really cool, a really good group of fish, but for the most part, fishing deep, slow, is the way to do striper fishing in the wintertime. Unless you're changing migratory stripers, and that's different. But lake stripers, landlocked, put it that way, landlocked stripers. Yeah, some of them suspend, some of them actually go sit on the bottom, and then you need electronics to go find them, and that's probably where live bait comes back in. A lot of people do the whole dead stick thing, so if you find them, put your boat right over them, drop this fluke on this like weird looking head, just hold it a foot above his head, and maybe he'll come up and slip it.
Yep,
that's it. Or throw an A-rig at him. A-rigs are just like A-rig is probably the answer to the slow winter bite. It probably is. It's like the best bait.
Yeah, I mean they gotta hit like spoons and stuff too.
Yeah,
you just gotta. I mean, you can hold a spoon on top of the head.
Right. I did that. It worked good. Game blade, Captain Hook game blade works every time. It does. So Vu Mix says, "Will trolling for strappers in Oklahoma lakes be the same as beaver?" No, it is not.
Beaver
I guarantee you, it is not. It is not the same.
Yeah, I think that's Trevor.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the buddies.
Yeah,
it's not. Gets off. See his PA?
Well, if he's got PA, he's a friend of mine, because I have PA too.
On his PA.
Yeah, so trolling in Oklahoma, I can pretty much.
You need water clarity, you need maybe 5 feet water clarity. Mm-hmm. Troll too.
Mm-hmm.
Nope. And that's pretty tough to get in Oklahoma.
Right. So I think, this is a theory, right? I'm not sure, but I think clear water stripers will travel much farther to hit a bait because it can see it. Now, our stripers that live in say Keystone, or even Skiatook and Texoma, half the time it's dirty water. You have to be really close to them. They feel the vibration, then they come out and hit it. But I don't know. This is a theory. It could be 100% wrong. But let's see. Yeah, if you could only fish the banks, then see, we were in that boat too. This is from Wilbur Valeska. All right, so if you're fishing the bank, remember that you have to move around. That does not mean you move around the same lake. That means you move around all over. So it's good to have a good network of people that can feed you information. Look, this lake is hidden. Like that one guy in the top, he was telling us the Gibson's hit, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, simple tip like that. Okay, so go Gibson, And then we might have another guy that, kind of tends to fish, say, Hudson, or tends to fish Uliga, tends to fish Keystone. And he'd be like, went to Keystone last week, pretty hot. I
mean, we have made trips, we'll go to one lake, and we're like, oh yeah, this lake is dead within the first hour, and be like, all right, pack up, let's go to the different lake.
Yes.
Make another hour drive to a
Yes.
different lake, fish it, and like, okay, this one's dead. Well, how about on the way back we hit this other lake on the way back?
There's been trips where we've hit 3 lakes in one day.
Yeah, so
And trying really hard too, not just drive by and look at it. You actually fish it pretty hard. You're like, you get a feel for what the lake is doing, right?
mm-hmm.
So there's certain lakes, especially the kayak one, right? Because we've done that, especially 2 years ago, where there's a string of lakes that we like to go to, and every year, like, lakes go up. I'm sure this is true with stripers too. Every year, like every lake goes through like a mood swing, you know. So some years, a certain lake is just hot. Like it's just got everything it needs to be hot. It's got the bait. It's got the good sized fish you're looking for. Like if it's stripers, it's gotta be at least 20 inches, right? So all the stripers are all like 24, 28 inches, right? And it's great. But next year, everybody fished all those fish out. So now you're all left with
20 inches,
20 inches,
18 inches,
or 14 inches for that matter. And now you're like, man, that lake sucks. So now you gotta go to a different lake, okay? So keep that in mind too. So when we're doing this stuff, we do gauge. You kind of have to gauge a lake for you to keep going back to, So 1 year, like for example, the hybrid population on Skiatook kind of came back this year. We caught like some bigger sizes compared to the year before that. The year before that, everything I caught was giant, So there's like a phase that all these fishes go through. So I expect this coming year all the hybrids to be all good sizes. Not 22, 24s, but they're all like right at that 20. Like we caught a bunch of 20s, but they should all be that 20 this year. There's a bunch of 18s that we caught this year. So this coming year should all be the 20s. All those 14s will now be like 17, 18s, which are all good sizes. And keep in mind, if you go to a lake that has you caught a whole mess of little fish, right? That did not make the minimum length to keep, guess what? Next year, they're all going to be legal. So,
just gotta find them.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Where is a good place to fish on Skiatook to bank fish for hybrids? On Skiatook, everybody fishes the dam.
Everybody fishes the dam.
Yeah.
Just dam, the dam on the lakeside.
Yeah.
Not the dam below the dam.
Yeah. Everybody fishes it from late March all the way through April.
Mm-hmm.
But that lake, any points on that lake is good. I mean, on Skiatook Point is good. You go to Osage, those points by oceans are good. The Highway 20 bridge is good.
I've heard a lot of people catch a lot of hybrids, Highway 20 bridge.
So everywhere, as long as you get to a point on the lake, is good.
Yep, because a lot of that lake is private property too. So those are probably the best ones. Yeah. Skiatook Point boat ramp. Look that up. Community hole. Once again, everybody knows about this, but you have to pay $5 to really park there. You go to the left or the right. I think the better point's probably on the right. And it goes, there's a channel swing that swings right on it. That spot's always hot. Always hot. Mark, catch everything from hybrids to walleyes to bass. It looks like a do nothing point, but it's actually pretty good. Do you use leader line? We do on our spinning rods. We do a lot on spinning rods. We use braid and then we go to leader. On our bait casters, we just do a straight fluorocarbon or straight braid a lot of times.
Yeah. But if you're talking about fishing for striper, yes, we do. And what kind and pound? We do a lot of either 20 pound fluorocarbon or 30 or 50 pound mono on our big surf setup to throw out big plugs.
Yeah. If it's top water, it's a 50-pound mono. For the we've pretty much standardized on that now because it's too much guesswork. So everyone's just like 40, 50 pounds.
I mean, you're still gonna break like your 30-pound braid to your 30-pound mono, and your mono is gonna give out first. So if you put 50, they're not gonna. Even your 50 sometimes gives out before your 30-pound braid gives. So
Yep. So that's pretty intense though. Like 50 pound.
yeah,
50 pounds pretty crazy.
but you don't have to retie.
You don't have to retie the whole day, and then your tactical angler. So this is 47. He does this a lot. So he does the what either 20 or 30 pound braid mainline to a 40 or 50 pound big game, vertically traveling big game.
Yeah, just cheap.
Yeah, leaders cheap, just go big, right? And then he goes to like the 150 pound,
120.
120 pound tactical angler. And he just switches it back and forth. He doesn't retie ever. He just retires it before he goes, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Just all day, just like that.
Unless you break off or something.
Yep. Which you probably do sometimes, but for the most part, you'll be all right. So there's that. If you gotta do little baits, do like little 7 foot rods, T10 top waters and stuff. For the most part, we don't tie. Even though we probably should. For the most part, we don't. 90% of the times we don't. But if we get into a situation where we think there's a lot of big fish, then yeah, I will retie a leader. Just because braid is easily cut by the fish's gills. The gills, like if you guys don't understand what I'm talking about, stripers, white bass, and hybrids, that class of family, they have a gill plate. There's a spot in the gill plate where literally looks like a razor blade. Right?
Mm-hmm. It cuts your hand.
Yeah, it cuts hands. And we got a lot of people that have, bloody thumbs, and if that touches your braid, it's like done. So you might want to put at least a 15 pound some type of plastic line on it. At least I would say 2 feet. Should be okay. Should be okay. Yeah. And take your pick. It doesn't really matter. Loading the baits from David. There's a lot of ways to do it. Probably the easiest way is probably hog glue. That's probably the easiest way. Hog glue.
I came up with that.
Yeah, that's probably the easiest way. A lot of people will say use the epoxy and do all this other stuff, but
that's just too long.
Yeah, it probably seals it better though, But same time, it's like
it's still gonna sink. So
it's probably all of it's gonna sink, so it doesn't really matter. As long as you get a tight enough seal, it's fine,
Yeah. So what you do is you just load it with BBs to what you want, and you throw it in the wear or, and then fill it up with hot glue.
Yep.
And then
Hot
trim
glue,
it.
Trim it. And that's the thing about the epoxy. Is like a lot of people. I've seen a couple of guys when they put the epoxy in, when they put the hot glue in, like just put a piece of tape right over the hole, and it kind of conforms to the. It makes it flat. That's what it does. So you have to like go back and trim it. So that's a little thing. But the loaded plugs, that's always a cool thing. That's a summer bite for the most part at the dams. On the lakeside, we don't hardly ever throw a loaded plug. Almost never, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, almost never. Loaded plugs, for the guys that don't know, is basically any topwater that you have drilled a hole into, put maybe 2 ounces worth of BBs in it, and reseal the hole. That's what it is. So what you try to do is you try to cast it really, really, really far.
It's just a sinker that looks good.
Yeah, it's basically a sinker with 2 treble hoods on it before it's done. And it casts 130 yards. Compared to before, you might get 60 on a good day. Yeah. So you go from 60 to 100, you double the distance.
You get 60.
Yeah, double the distance. And if you're fishing the dams, you better know that trick. We're thinking about building some and selling some to just the fans, maybe signatures or whatever. But you better know that trick if you're fishing Oklahoma dams. That's something that I don't hear anybody else talk about outside Oklahoma. We're the only ones that actually talk about it because maybe our dams are. Well, maybe it's because they don't allow us to go that close to our dams. I see other guys, North Carolina, Kentucky, they're like right all the dam. They're just dropping it straight down. So they don't need the extremely long casts. So the loaded plugs idea, we got that from the surf world. Yeah, the saltwater guys. They do that for their plugs too. Because they're they're on the bank, right? Basically, and they have to cast to the stripers, like 100 yards out. They have to hit it, and then they do. That's what they do. It's a cheap way of getting something out there. Okay, so it's hour 30. I think we've covered majority of the questions already. So, so you guys have any striper related questions? If not, then we're gonna kind of close it up here because once again we're not at the actual studio that I have kind of set up. This is kind of the backup plan. We had to come to the backup plan. That's why we're like the 20 minutes late, something like that.
Yeah.
20 minutes late. So that's why. So hopefully next week everything will be good. Audio will be better. Video will be better. Everything should be better.
All right, bring our lures and flash it more. What's
Yeah.
next week's topic?
Yeah.
Yeah, thinking about it.
How to cook stripers, dude. Pretty good. How to cook stripers because a lot of people talk about it, but they don't. That's the other thing. Okay, so that's the main difference between the bass fishing world and the striper world. Bass fishing, no one ever keeps their bass. It doesn't matter what size, how many. They always
Roland Martin does.
He doesn't. He catches once in a while, keeps them. But you flip it to the striper side. Okay, the bass side, they catch and release, right? 99% of the time. The striper side, people eat 99% of the time, right? It flops, right? Yeah. So that's something we'll have to talk about because we do have some pretty good ways to catch them. So that's probably a good topic. Either that or I guess we'll talk about gear. So I guess in the last 30 minutes we could talk gear, right? So that's something we didn't talk about. We talked about locations. We talked about baits already, right? But we'll talk about rod and reel for the lake, right? So the surf rod we talked about, leave that at the house. For the most part, you're not going to use it. For the most part. But if you're going for stripers, I would say stripers, white bass, and that type of stuff on the lakeside. 7 foot, probably 7 foot spinning rod. It's probably the best one with 10-pound braid on it. For the stripers that are less than 20 inches, right? All the fishes that are less than 20 inches. It's probably really good combination. It doesn't matter if it's a 1 piece or 2 piece, but say 7 to 7.5 is probably really good. And then 10-pound line, probably a cheap power pro.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
power
I'll
pro's
put
good.
10 or
Yeah.
15.
10 or 15 is probably where you want to be at. The real size,
3,000.
3,000, 3,500 is probably where you want to be at for that reel. The 4,000 is a little on the big side. It's a little on the big
I
side.
don't know. I like the big reels.
You like the big reels?
Yeah, I like the 4,000 and 5,000.
Well, maybe you put the 4,000
But
on
the
big
freshwater
side.
one, not the saltwater one.
Yeah.
Because
4,000.
4,000 freshwater is different from 4,000 saltwater.
Yeah, that's a different size. So it's gotta be attention to that when you're picking your gear. But that way you're not like us when we have like 30 rods on our bass fishing kayaks. We're just gonna give you that one because a lot of the guys watching right now they're like new to the world of striper fishing, striper, white bass, all that. So you only carry one rod that can do all the species. That's why I said anything less than 20 inches, right? So that way you can get an idea of what kind of fish you're chasing, right? Now once you break that 20 mark, okay, so we didn't talk about the crazy big stripers too. So when you get beyond that, I would say a 9.5 foot rod. If you're chasing a striper that's say 30-inch plus, right? Or even that, because I feel like from 20 even to 24, and even up maybe up to 30, your little 7 foot with 15-pound line. If you know how to play fish, and this is a learning curve. If you know how to play fish, you're still gonna catch that fish. Like 28 pulling really hard, you're still gonna catch it. Okay, like I've done it countless times. But that rod and reel combo is going to struggle with a striper that's 30-inch plus. When it gets to 30-inch plus,
It's doable. It just takes longer.
It does. It takes a lot longer.
And you gotta be pretty skilled.
Yeah, you have to be pretty skilled at that point because that rod probably won't throw that bigger bait that you're gonna you want to throw to try to target the biggest stripers. So the baits that you mentioned, the little swim baits, the little jerk baits, the 15A bombers, those are really good at stripers that are less than 30 inches. If you're targeting the bigger ones, you're going to throw in the say the Daiwa SP minnows, you're throwing the crystal minnows, the Magnum crystal minnows, you're throwing the bigger, the 16, and maybe is there maybe a 17 bomber? Those are getting pretty big.
They got the big bombers.
Yeah, those are getting bigger in sizes. So you do step up to that 9.5 foot rod. Now you're up to the 3,500, 4,000 size reels, saltwater sizes. Definitely 30-pound braid, right? 30-pound braid.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And all your hooks are a lot bigger. They're a lot thicker too, because those stripers that are 30-inch plus, they will tear up some gear. Put it that way, they will tear up some gear. So
when you're choosing those, you might land a 40-inch.
You might land a 40, and your little 7-foot pulling a 40 is a little struggle bus all day. So sometimes you have to turn the fish too, and the 7-foot's not going to do it.
Yeah.
So that's when he comes in a 13-foot. If you can get an idea, you could turn a big fish with a big rod,
or pull them to the surface.
Pull them to the surface, yeah. Because sometimes, depending where you're at, so you got to kind of think about okay, it's hard to get a bite, right? But when you do get a bite, how do you see that fight play out, right? So a lot of times, I used to do this a lot when we were in New England. We're fishing the ocean. Before you even make a cast, you should already kind of pick out a little area where you're going to land the fish if you get bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of stuck with me this whole time. So kind of pick an area where you want to land the fish. So if you catch a big fish, you have to bring him to the spot. And it's a lot easier to do that with the proper gear. Don't get me wrong, I've done it with a crappie pole and 6-pound line, but it took 15 minutes. And you basically have to float that fish in. For the guys that don't know what that means you fight him for so long, he can't even move. So he's literally floating on the surface, and you're just pulling him in. I've done that before. And I don't know if those fish will survive if you release them. They're so tired. Yeah. But at the same time, like I said, we're 99% harvesters, so that's fine. We just put them on the string, put them in the backpack. They're pretty good, So that's kind of the two things. There's a smaller rod and there's a bigger rod. So for hybrids, don't worry about it. The medium rod's will be fine. White bass, perfectly fine. It only comes into play when the bigger rod comes into play when you targeting the bigger stripers. That's about it. So once again, the big spoons, big A-rigs, things like that, your little rod's probably not gonna do, but your big rod will be just fine. And we're not talking about bait casters yet, because I feel like that's advanced. So your 9-foot rod can throw a bro rig, you can throw a Magnum spoon, you can throw a 1 ounce jig head with a fluke. It'll do it very, very well, actually. Mm-hmm. Right? Because that's what we grew up on. Big spinning rods. Big spinning rods and big spinning reels. Before we joined the bass world, and everything's just bait casters now. So, Craig Stevens, glad to catch this. Glad you're here. Hopefully you learned something. If you didn't, I guess go back and watch it. It's an hour 40 now.
Or watched last week.
Or you can watch last week.
Yeah, there was a lot of information last week.
Yeah, a lot of information last week too.
Have you ever fished smallies in the creeks of eastern Oklahoma? Does that mean we caught smallies?
By mistake, yeah.
Well, we caught smallies in Uchi in the creeks, so.
But they're so small. They're this big.
Yeah, they're small.
They're real small.
Biggest one is probably a 17-incher.
No, they're not that big.
I think maybe 14-incher.
Probably 14. Yeah. I caught them on fly rod too. So yeah, I have caught a couple.
I mean, I guess Eastern does include 10-killer and stuff, but 10-killer smallies are not really considered.
No, those are, what is they called?
They're Tennessee strain.
Tennessee?
Smallmouth.
Georgia state?
Yeah.
All right. All right. So I'm thinking about doing like bass on Tuesdays and stripers on Thursdays. Or like at least those are the subjects that we can break off. Like they say bass can be spawning season, or bass can be like tournaments, bass can be kayaks, boats, tournaments, everything. And then the stripers can be just like stripers, cooking, I don't know, that type of stuff. Float that idea around. I'll try to do that next Tuesday. I'm kind of running out of time. Probably gonna log on here in a couple minutes if there's no more questions. But kind of juggling that idea around because it's winter time and we're not fishing as crazy as we usually do. Uh, but yep, probably start doing that because I know our fan base is kind of two worlds. Uh, there's the hardcore kayak guys, and then there's the hardcore striper guys. You know, and then there's us. We like to do everything.
There's not enough time.
There's just not enough time to do anything. Yeah, yeah. There's a couple guys here that like us too. So we have a lot of. Our brain is like a library of fishing books. You know, we have a lot of knowledge in there. So, majority of the guys that follow the channels are striper guys, but the hardcore anglers, you know, the kayak guys, they do follow us too. And that's something that we can really cover. You know, so the tournament world and how it applies to kind of like traditional striper fishing too, because you do have to move a lot, change baits very often, things like that. That really boils over from the kayak tournament world. And because we were in that world, I feel like we're much better striper fishermen now, even though we haven't been striper fishing a lot in the past 3 years.
It just everything just makes more sense.
Yeah, everything makes more sense. Like we're really used to, okay, well, there's migration, you need to move. If they're not biting, you gotta make them react. If they're not biting, they're not hungry, move to the next spot, go to the side lake, fish with bluff points, fish with bluff balls, things like that. There's a lot of decisions that are being like processed, you can say, during the day. All right. So David says, what's a good walleye bait? We have no idea. To be honest with you, man. We're not sure. I try to figure that out.
Bait, but man, you get
a jerk bait and a gay blade.
But
that's what Captain.
Those are what usually produce for us.
Yeah.
I mean, a good bait is Nightcrawler.
I gotta do a drop shot Nightcrawler one of these days.
You gotta do one of those too.
Yep. So, all right. Hour 45 into it. Probably just gonna sign off, guys. I think we did a pretty good live feed today. Let's see. Pick a topic for next week. Next Thursday. It can be anything.
We could talk baits.
Stock baits.
Just bring our baits and flash our baits and talk about them. And stories.
Baits and their stories. Bring your top 5. I'll bring my top 5.
Yeah.
All right. All right, guys. So next week, striper baits. He'll bring his 5. I'll bring my 5. We'll talk about it for an hour. Why we like these baits. For no particular reason. Just our top 5 baits. Whether they're based on memory or they're based on something we want to do with them in the future. Okay, so don't be surprised if you guys see glide baits. Don't be surprised if you see like weird bass stuff. Don't be surprised if we bring live bait. Don't be surprised if I bring a giant trout or a whole entire booktail. Yeah, so watch out for that. That's next Thursday. Next Thursday, just kind of follow the feed on YouTube and follow the feed on Facebook. Thinking if I can squeeze it in, I want to do a Tuesday also, but the Tuesday will just be strictly bass fishing. Like I want to start that too. So we got a bass fishing and a striper fishing kind of live going. So that's about it. We got too much to talk about, but not enough time, so we gotta go. It's getting late. Got anything else to say?
I'm good.
You
I
good?
haven't eaten dinner yet.
That's true. All right, guys, sign off. Be sure to share the video with whoever you feel should benefit from this. And if there's any more questions, we can always do like a part 2, kind of a follow-up to this. Down the road if everybody wants to. Now, I know a lot of people from out of town, they might want to know, So if you have Facebook groups or whatever. Share that. It's just free knowledge for everybody to play with. All right. We'll see you guys. See you guys.